Have you ever noticed this strange moment? You sit down to work. Your laptop is open. Your notes are ready. And instead of actually thinking, you start watching yourself think. You ask things like, am I focusing enough? Why does my brain feel slow today? Is this what deep work is supposed to feel like? And the more you ask, the worse it gets. Your thoughts feel heavier. Your mind feels crowded. And suddenly, doing the task feels harder than it should. What's strange is, you're trying your best. You're motivated. You want to focus. But here's the paradox most people never notice. Your brain doesn't work best when it's being watched. In fact, some of your best thinking moments probably happened when you weren't paying attention to your thinking at all. Ideas come to you in the shower. Solutions appear when you're walking. Clarity shows up when you stop forcing it. But the moment you sit down and say, okay brain, perform now, everything tightens up. It's like staring at a loading bar, stuck at 99%. The more you watch it, the slower it feels. This video isn't about productivity tricks. It's about understanding a quiet mental mistake we make every day, turning our attention inward when it should be pointed outward. Because once you see this, you stop blaming yourself for not focusing hard enough, and you start working with your brain instead of against it. Here's the part most people misunderstand about focus. We assume that focusing means trying harder, more effort, more control, more self-discipline. So when our attention drifts, we don't gently return to the task. We tighten up. We start monitoring ourselves. We check whether we're doing it right. We keep asking, am I focused yet? But that question alone already pulls you out of focus. Because now, your attention isn't on the task anymore. It's on you. You're no longer reading the sentence. You're watching yourself read the sentence. And that subtle shift matters more than you think. There's a difference between doing the work and observing yourself doing the work. The first one is quiet, absorbed, almost invisible. The second one is loud, judgmental, mentally expensive. It's like trying to walk naturally, while constantly thinking about every step. Left foot, right foot, posture, balance. The moment you do that, walking becomes awkward. Thinking works the same way. Your brain evolved to solve problems automatically, in the background, without constant supervision. But modern life trains us to hover over our own minds, to track performance in real time, to measure, optimize, and judge every mental state. And slowly, that inner observer becomes the real distraction. So when you feel stuck, foggy, or strangely tense while working, it's often not because you lack discipline. It's because you're watching the process, instead of letting it run. Now, this isn't just a feeling. There's a real pattern behind it. When people talk about doing their best work, they often describe something similar. Time fades. Effort feels lighter. The task seems to carry itself forward. Psychologists usually call this flow. But here's the important part that often gets missed. Flow isn't a state you enter by trying harder. It's not something you switch on with discipline. It emerges when a few conditions line up. First, the goal in front of you is clear, not huge, not abstract, just clear enough that your brain knows what next looks like. Second, feedback is immediate. You write a sentence and you see it appear. You solve a step and the problem moves forward. The brain gets constant signals that it's making progress. And third, this one matters most. Self-awareness fades. You're not thinking about how well you're doing. You're not checking your focus. You're simply responding to what's right in front of you. That's why flow feels effortless. Not because the work is easy, but because nothing is interrupting it. A useful way to picture this is walking down a flight of stairs. Most of the time, you don't think about each step. Your body handles it automatically. But the moment you start narrating the process, step, step, careful now, you feel awkward. You hesitate. Sometimes you even stumble. Thinking works the same way. Once a process has momentum, awareness becomes friction. The more closely you watch each mental move, the more you slow it down. So the brain doesn't do its best work when it's being managed. It does its best work when it's being allowed to run. Here's where this really starts to matter. Because the problem isn't just that self-monitoring feels uncomfortable. It's that it actually consumes mental capacity. Every time you watch your own thinking, You're running an extra process in your head. You're thinking and thinking about the thinking. That second layer doesn't feel heavy, but it quietly eats up mental bandwidth. A useful way to picture this is your phone. When too many apps are running in the background, everything slows down. Not because any single app is broken, but because the system is overloaded. Your brain works the same way. The inner observer, the part of you that checks, evaluates, and comments, uses the same limited resources as problem solving and creativity. So when it's active, there's simply less room left to think clearly. That's why this shows up in such familiar ways. Students reread the same line again and again, but nothing sticks. Writers sit in front of a blank page, hyper-aware of every sentence before it exists. Athletes know exactly what to do, until the moment they start thinking about how they're doing it. Under pressure, performance collapses, not from lack of skill, but from too much observation. This is often called choking, but that word makes it sound emotional. What's really happening is cognitive overload. The task didn't get harder. The brain just got busier. And the cruel part is that the inner observer feels helpful. It sounds responsible. It sounds like discipline. But in practice, it's like standing behind yourself and giving constant commentary while you're trying to move. The intention is control. The result is interference. So the problem isn't a lack of focus. It's too much watching. So what do you actually do with this? Because knowing the problem isn't enough. You don't stop self-monitoring by telling yourself to stop thinking about it. That just gives the inner observer another job. Instead, the solution is indirect. You don't silence the inner monitor. You distract it. And the way you do that is by shifting attention out of your head and into the environment. The brain focuses best when it has something concrete to respond to. Not a goal like focus harder, but a small, physical, external action. This is why entry rituals matter so much. An entry ritual is a repeatable sequence that tells your brain, we're starting now. Same desk, same time, same first movement. Not because it's magical, but because it removes the need to decide. Decision-making wakes the observer. Ritual lets you slip past it. Another powerful move is lowering the stakes of starting. Most people freeze not because the task is hard, but because the expectation is heavy. So don't start by doing it well. Start by doing it badly. Write one bad sentence, solve one messy step, open the file and do something slightly wrong. Momentum doesn't come from confidence. Confidence comes after momentum. And this is the most important reframe. Focus is not a command you issue to your brain. It's a side effect. It shows up when the conditions are right, when attention is outward, when feedback is immediate, and when no one is standing over your shoulder watching, including you. So instead of asking, am I focused? Ask a quieter question. What's the next tiny action? Then let the brain follow. So if there's one thing to take away from all of this, it's this. You don't force clarity. You remove interference. Your brain already knows how to think. It already knows how to solve problems, connect ideas, and move forward. What gets in the way isn't a lack of motivation. It's too much supervision. The moment you stop hovering over your own mind, something subtle happens. Thoughts start to line up on their own. Momentum builds quietly. The work begins to carry itself again. Not because you pushed harder, but because you stopped interrupting. This is why the calmest moments of focus often arrive unexpectedly. On a walk, in the shower, while doing something simple with your hands. No one is watching the thinking. So the thinking is free to move. That's the let go principle. You don't need to monitor every mental step. You don't need to check whether you're doing it right. You just need to give your brain a direction and then get out of the way. So the next time you sit down to work and feel that familiar resistance, don't ask, what's wrong with my focus? Ask something gentler. What's the smallest action I can take right now? Then take it and let the rest follow.